all of the promises that you make and all of the uh, essentially all the timelines that you need to pay attention to, you've systematized so that you maybe call somebody that gave you their email address and in 2 weeks say, hey, don't forget to vote, right? Or hey, your nearest
Mm-hmm.
polling place is this, or hey, did you know that early voting started today, right? Or hey, did you just see this new thing that happened in Congress? Does that concern you? Or isn't that awesome, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So it's really just coming up with a strategy, what is your purpose for the call? And then sharing that with as many people as you possibly can. And then every time that somebody wants to do something with you or ask you to do something for them in the future, you make certain that whatever system needs to be executed on gets executed on without fail. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, and I always tell people when they're new in marketing, think outside the box. Don't do what everybody else does. Do use yourself and market yourself in a different way.
Yep.
And I'm big on volunteering. I volunteer for kids, pets, and I volunteer, which we've been put on hold, and I volunteer for the veterans also. So I'm huge on volunteering and using the volunteering along with my business, incorporating them together.
Yeah, I love it. And you'll end up realizing that you're lead generating when you never really thought you were, if that makes
Right.
sense. Right. You're just naturally out there speaking to people, and they're hearing that you care and that you have a genuine curiosity about their world and that you have valid information. And then the more you guys talk, the more they will hear that you're a professional and that you take your work seriously and these kind of things. And then they'll naturally want to support you when you're going out of your way to support them.
Right.
So in conclusion, I want to make sure that you guys enroll for Ignite. I will send you the schedule. It starts next Monday. It's $125. If you've already received your post license, then you can get CE credit instead. So you can probably knock out a good bit of your CE credit. So it's not wasted money or wasted time. The topics, just real quickly, are build your business, find your business, winning with sellers, price to sell your listings, find and win with buyers, finding and showing homes, contracts, making and receiving offers, negotiating the deal, and closing the deal. Okay. So, and then I got somewhat of a captive audience. If you guys have not seen this, this is on our newsletter, and it's been on the newsletter for a couple of weeks right now. This is a class called Career Visioning. This is our class on growing or a team building. I know neither one of you are in the, you're in the, I just got my license a couple weeks ago stage, rather than I'm ready to join a team or build a team. But this is a free class. It's this Friday from 9 to 4. It's probably my favorite curriculum in all of Keller Williams, taught by one of my favorite instructors. So I encourage you guys to tune into that. And the registration or the link to RSVP is on the newsletter. Okay, so what I want to do is help you guys better understand kind of what to expect when you come on board to productivity coaching. Both of you have been kind of in like an information session. Mike officially joined today, and Mary is it's in her near future, as she says. So what I want to go through with you guys is just some of the things that you can expect right from the get-go. Okay, remember, you're now going to be a group of about 46 agents that are all essentially trying to accomplish the same thing, right? Just about everyone got into the business because they want to improve the quality of their lives. More often than not, they want more income, more flexibility, and more time, and oftentimes more control is the biggest factor, right? So we teach you how to use real estate to create a real estate business to ultimately fund your life, right? Whether you want to sell 2 homes a year or 52 homes a year or 202 homes a year, it's been done before. And all we simply have to do is show you the model, right? Show you the game plan, and then help you execute on that game plan. And then have a kind of an understanding that if, for example, let's say, Mary, you tell me, hey, I want to make $150,000 selling homes in this year. I say, great, here's your plan. If you do this, it's almost impossible for you not to make this kind of money. Okay. And you tell everyone's on the same page, you're super excited, blah, blah, blah. And then a month or two goes by and you're not doing the right activity. Right. So the next question would be, hey, Mary, is everything going okay in your personal life? Is there anything that I shouldn't be aware of in your personal life that's preventing you from staying on track? And you would say, yes, actually, I've got a sick family member. I say, okay, you get all the grace you need, right? But if you say, no, everything's good in my life, I say, well, you had told me that if you make $150,000, then you'll be able to buy that investment property and you'll be able to send your kid to school without any debt. And you'll be able to, buy some stock that you said you wanted to buy. What I'm noticing is that the activity that you're putting out there is not creating the results that we want, or it's not enough activity. How are you feeling? Do you agree with me? Am I missing something? Right. And we're having a care and candor conversation around the relationship between your activities or lack thereof and the results or lack thereof. Make sense?
Yes. I muted you because my dog, sorry.
Okay. All right. I got a tiny little peek at what you looked like.
Oh.
Just a second. Mike, did you catch that?
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Hair up. Hair
All
up,
right, all
sweatpants
right.
on today.
We all get grace.
Okay.
I'd much rather speak to a bunch of people that, have their gym clothes on and a hat on or whatever than a bunch of black squares. So thank you for that. So what we want to do is set up a kind of a very joint understanding that we're all trying to get to the same place, right? There was like a moment in your life where you believed that getting a real estate license and enrolling in a company like Keller Williams and potentially enrolling in a productivity coaching program would be the solution for everything that you want. And that is what we're trying to figure out for you guys, right? How can we go walk step by step with you to make sure that you get exactly what you're hoping to get, okay? So one of the very first things that we're going to do is to get clear on what it is you want, right? Are you driven by helping people buy and sell homes? Are you driven by earning a certain number of dollars? Are you driven by helping a certain number of families? Are you driven by like beating everyone else, like just winning? Or like what is it that drives you, right? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? Why is that stuff important to you? And then together we create a plan. So I'll come back to the plan here in just a moment with you guys. I'll show you kind of an example of how that works. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually, why don't we go straight into that? Let me show you one thing on I'm just going to share my screen for just a moment and show you an example of one of the 4 models of the millionaire real estate agent. Okay, the 4 models of the millionaire real estate agent is going to be basically the framework that we use to help you create the plan. Okay, so just briefly, I don't know if you guys have begun to study that book, the red book, which is right here, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Okay. You can get a audio book of it or on YouTube, probably for free. And you can get the book at the office or a couple bucks on Amazon or something. Okay, so let me show you how one of these models work. Okay. All right, can you guys see this screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so here is the basics of those models. The first model is called the economic model. That's what you're looking at right here. Okay, the economic model is designed to show you, based on your income goals, what your activities need to be. So let me walk you through what that means. So this is a sheet that we would create, just the 2 of us. So let's say Mary, let's use you for an example, okay? Everything that is in yellow is a cell that can be edited, okay? and everything in white and black is where the formulas are. So don't mess with that. Okay. So let's just say, Mary, do you mind sharing what your financial goal is for this next 12 months? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
There we go. Can you
All right.
hear me?
I can now. Yes.
Sorry, my dogs are very loud. They're very big dogs. So I'm quite comfortable with 80,000 to 100,000.
Okay. And is that gross or net?
That would be gross.
Okay, great. Let's do this then. So if I were to ask you, what is the average sales price of the sellers that you will help this year? What price do you expect them to be? So let me give you some background on that. So that might be a combination of the kind of your social sphere, like the people that you spend the most time with and that know the most about you. Do they tend to own $300,000 homes, $800,000 homes, $150,000 homes, right? And then if that target is not really what you want, right? So let's say, well, a bunch of my friends are $150,000 clients yet. I don't want to help a bunch of $150,000 clients. I'd rather help $500,000 clients. Then it's just as easy to prospect for a $500,000 client than it is a $200,000 client. So in your perfect world, what would that average sales price be for sellers?
Around 400,000.
Okay, and buyers?
And for buyers, probably that's kind of different. It's some would be downsizing, some would be upsizing that I would be helping. Probably, I would say around 400 also.
Okay.
Especially in my area, Bill, where I live.
Okay, perfect. So you guys can watch me change these cells. What percentage of your business do you think would come from sellers and what percentage from buyers?
I would think 50-50.
Okay, good. And so I'm just going to use some standard conversion rates, and I'll walk you through what those are. So when you go on an appointment, so this is a pre-qualified appointment, right? You've asked a buyer prospect a certain number of questions and a certain types of questions so that you can determine, hey, is this somebody that I feel comfortable meeting with? Is this somebody that I believe has an appropriate motivation? Is this somebody that is not, freaked me out? You see what I'm saying? So for example, like we had an agent, maybe this happens fairly regularly, unfortunately, but I was involved in one that happened about 8 or 9 months ago, and we had a luxury agent who had a very expensive listing, like $1.5 million listing, and she got a inquiry to show the home at night. And she didn't, a lot of times you have this kind of sense that something's not quite right. So she asked me about it, and we looked it up, and the guy had just gotten out of jail, and he had been in jail for violent sex acts, right? So, not every person is an opportunity. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So when you decide that you're going to meet with them, 75% of those people will agree to work with you, or you will agree to work with them. Right. Once you have the person under contract, an agency agreement, meaning the seller has agreed to work with you exclusively, or the buyer has agreed to work with you exclusively, then 75% of that time, you'll get the deal under contract. You'll get a pending, you'll get a property under contract. Then once you have the deal under contract, 75% of those will actually close. Now, I know those ratios may not be exactly what you would expect them to be. I would say those lean more towards the conservative side, but they also assume that you have, solid presentation skills, scripting, dialogue, right? You can handle objections, that kind of stuff, which are some skills that we'll certainly learn together. Okay, so what this tells us is that we simply need to go on, and I'll round up here, 15 listing appointments each year. Okay, 15 appointments for sellers each year. We'll round up and we'll take 11 of those. So out of the 15 that we sit down with, 11 will have a mutual decision to work together, and 6 of those will close. You do the exact same thing on the buyer side, and you'll have a total of 12 transactions, which will gross you $144,000. So you actually just said you wanted to make 80, so we could actually lower that I know you can make more than that, Mary. So I'm not going to go any lower than 8. Okay. So what this is telling you is that for you to gross $96,000 in this business by helping a bunch of $400,000 buyers and sellers at those conversion rates, you simply need to go on 20 appointments the entire year. If I were to say to you, Mary, I got a gig for you, all you got to do is sit down with 20 people, barely more than one a month, right? And if you meet with those, convert it 75% to a client and then about 56% to a closing, right? Which is 75 and 75. You'll make almost $100,000 gross. You'd be like, okay, sign me up, right?
Right.
Cool news is that's your job. You already have all the license and stuff you need to do that job, right? So now what we need to do is we need to say to ourselves, what else do we need to do on a daily basis, right? So what we've done here is we have taken the economic model and said, if I have a desire to make this amount of money, all I got to do is these activities, right? Which is the crux of everything is appointments, okay? There's never been a real estate closing in the history of the world without first having an appointment, right? And there's never been an appointment in the history of the world without first having a discussion about when the appointment's going to happen. Right? Makes sense? So
Makes sense.
We're going to get to contacts here in just a second. So we go to this next tab called listings needed, contacts needed. So what this is telling us, and we'll be, I want to kind of not spend too much time here, but same. Okay, what this is telling us is that we need one active listing at all times in order for this business to flow. Okay, this is a generalized summary of our business here. You're going to make 96 grand in commissions. You're going to do $3.2 million in total volume, 8 sales. Remember that you're going to be courting future buyers and sellers in various stages of their journey all the time, right? So in an effort to, some sellers you might visit with, they'll be ready to list with you today. Some sellers, they might want to, fix something and paint something and think about it and start in 3 months and all that. So basically what they say is that in order for you to take enough listings, put enough under contract and close enough, one of the thresholds should basically be, do I have an active listing? Okay, it's a very simple question. If I have an active listing, I'm most likely on track. If I do not have an active listing, I'm almost certainly off track. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Because listings give you an opportunity to market. They give you like a bait to some degree to go and farm a neighborhood or door knock or host open houses or do Facebook ads and these kind of things, right? And that's going to generate future business from neighbors and from referrals. Okay. Now, there are some ratios here that I want you to understand. When you are prospecting for a would-be seller, okay, they say that you need to speak to 20 would-be sellers in order to book an appointment. When you're prospecting for would-be buyers, according to all different types of prospecting, the average is 50. You need to have 50 conversations with prospective buyers in order to book an appointment. 70% of those appointments that you book will hold. 30% you may not ever speak to again. Okay, so what we're doing is we're saying, well, basically, how many people do we need to talk to each day? By the way, this is 20 days a month, so you don't even have to work every day. Don't want you to work every day, right? So 20 days out of the month, you talk to 11 human beings about real estate, you will almost certainly hit your financial goals. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to skip this page real fast. This is about lead generation. This is the next model. So what do we know now is that we need to speak to 11 people a day. We need to go on 20 appointments a year, okay? And we need to have one active listing at all times. So the next model of the millionaire real estate agent is, well, where are all those appointments going to come from? Okay. So then we look at all the different lead generation type strategies, right? Could be sphere of influence, could be cold calling, for sale by owners, expired listings, door knocking, open houses, pay-per-clicks, networking group, business-to-business referrals. The list goes on and on and on and on. Okay. So you would determine, hey, I like this and I got no interest in this and I really like to try this one, right? So then the point is where, first of all, what are the sources? And then how do we measure the fact that you're being successful in each of those sources? So it's not good enough, for example, to say, well, I host open houses. Yeah, well, how many? And what's your follow-up system for the people that you meet in the open houses? And what do you do prior to the open house to make sure that you get as many people come, right? What can people expect for what can the seller expect from you if you're going to host one of their homes open, right? So it's not just about saying, well, I host open houses. It's about saying, what's my pre-list strategy? Pre-open house strategy, post-open house strategy. What do I do when I'm there, right? How does all this stuff fall into place in a predictable, systematic way, right? And can I communicate that to my prospects? Okay, so we take a good hard look at the size of your database, because that's going to indicate how much business you can expect from it as of this moment. Okay, Keller Williams is really a research company to some degree. So one of the things that they have researched is they say for every 100 people in your database, you should have 10 closings a year. So 10% of your database should close every year. Okay, roughly half of those people will be people within the database itself. The other roughly half of those would be referrals from people that are in your database. Okay, now, if this is on the low side, according to what you said, Mary, but if we said the average sales commission in our office is 10 grand, and if I get 100 people in my database, I should have 10 closings at an average of 10 apiece. That's $100,000 in income. Theoretically, every single person in your database is worth $1,000 every year. So when you're trying to decide should I add that person to my database or not, I would err on the side of adding them to the database, getting a hold of them, and pouring your heart and soul into them so that ultimately you can help them with their real estate endeavors in the future. Okay, so you only get that, by the way, if you're systematically communicating with them. And in Keller Williams language, that's 36 times a year. So we'll cover what that looks like later. But basically, as newer agents, you both should be taking some time now to kind of pull together all of the people in your world, whether they be old colleagues or LinkedIn connections or Facebook friends or people whose information you have in your cell phone or people you met at an open house. All these people should be in command or in a database as soon as you possibly can. Okay. Any questions so far?
Nope.
So for example, if you want to have 8 sales next year, I would highly recommend you have at least 80 people in your database as soon as you possibly can. So if you were to come to me and said, hey, I got 25 people in my database, I would say to you, there is virtually no chance you're going to have 8 sales next year with a database that size. You're going to have to grow your database, right? And so with that in mind, you say to yourself, well, what do I need to grow it to? Or how many should I add a day? Or what are you even talking about? Or where are those people going to come from? Then that's part of our strategy, right? So it becomes a priority. It becomes something we put in our calendar, becomes something we hold each other accountable to so that we can make constant progress, okay?
Okay.
So then there's a tab that I have here called the Big Rocks, okay? The Big Rocks is essentially your report card, for lack of a better way to put it, okay? So it says, I need 1 listing at all times. I have to speak to 11 people each day. My recommendation generally is that you add 2 people to your database every day. That becomes your commitment. I'm a full-time real estate agent or even a part-time real estate agent, doesn't make a difference, but in an effort to try to make progress, I know that I need to be in touch and be in relationship with as many people as possible. So I don't think it's out of line to add 2 a day, okay? You can meet 2 people as you're going grocery shopping or as you're doing stuff with your kids or whatever, right? All you got to do is go on 19 appointments. I rounded up to get to 20. 15 of those you'll take, and it breaks down to 2 a month, taking 2 listings a month. Technically, it's 0.8 buyer appointments and 0.8 seller appointments a month, and taking 0.6 of each. So if you round up, it's 2 and 2. That's where the math becomes a little confusing. Okay. So then we would say to ourselves, all right, great. So number 1, where are these 19 people going to come from? And number 2, how do I make sure I'm doing the right stuff every day such that those appointments become a no-brainer, right? So they don't become, you know, a chore or an unusual amount of work, right? So then we create some planning tools, one of which is called a GPS. A GPS, an example of that is right here. Okay, and you would get all, you know, examples and blank copies and all this stuff. Basically says my goal, G is goal, P is priority, S is strategy. So my goal is probably I want to sell 8 homes. Okay, the priorities that I'm going to use to execute on that goal could be, and oftentimes for newer agents, I suggest the 3 types of lead generation strategies you want to do. So sphere of influence, I'm going to get 1/3 of my closings from sphere of influence. And strategy 1 is I'm going to link in them all online. I'm going to, you know, make sure I have a social media strategy. I'm going to host a client event. I'm going to do some home buyer seminars. I'm going to do some surprise and delights, and, you know, really love on the people that I'm closest with, that kind of thing. The next strategy is I'm going to do open houses. How many are you going to do? I'm going to do 3 a week, or I'm sorry, 3 a month on Sunday and 1 on a Thursday night. And this is my plan before the open house. This is my plan after the open house. The third strategy could be cold calling. So I'm going to call 5 expireds per day, 5 for sale by owners per day, and I'm going to knock 50 doors a week, whatever it may be. Okay, and then everything has a metric tied to it, so we know whether we're on track, and it has a deadline tied to it, so we can keep you on the appropriate pace. Okay, and this basically becomes your 1-page business plan. Then we take this and then we go to your calendar and say, if I were to look at this person's calendar, number one, would it be obvious that they're in real estate? And would I know when they lead generate, when they follow up with the leads, when they go on their appointments, when they practice, right? The goal at the end of every single day, before your head hits the pillow, you should be asking yourself 2 questions. 1, am I smarter than I was this morning? Right? Am I better at being in real estate? Do I understand the market better? Do I understand the contracts better? Am I better at scripts or dialogues? Am I better at contracts? Am I better at negotiation? Am I better at technology? Like, how did I improve my skill set today? That should be question number 1. Or did I improve my skill set today? And oftentimes we have to be pretty purposeful about that, because improving your skill set oftentimes ends up at the bottom of the list, unless it is intentionally at the top of the list. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The second thing you should be thinking to yourself before the head hits the pillow is there anyone else in the universe that might come to me today for their real estate needs that I didn't even know at the beginning of the day? Right? So meaning, am I growing the database? This business is basically 2 buckets. It's the knowledge bucket and the database bucket. The knowledge bucket is all the things I just mentioned, right? Scripts, dialogues, presentations, technology, contracts, negotiations, market trends, all that. The other thing is, who am I sharing all that with, right? So we don't want you to be 100% in I'm going to become the smartest agent in town that's got no clients. And I also don't want you to be the person that doesn't make time to learn, and then you go and, you know, talk to everyone in the world and make a fool of yourself, right? So we have to find that balance between getting smarter every day and knowing more people every day. Make sense?
Yes.
So we create a schedule that reflects just that, right? By the way, you guys don't know me that well, but you are not going to hear from me more work. Okay, this is about a life worth living, and I'm probably the biggest believer of that in the entire office. Okay, so the first things we put on our calendar are our off time, right? What other types of commitments do we have? Do we have family commitments? Do we have, you know, pick up the kids at school commitments? Do we have family dinner commitments? Do we, you know, have a church day, or, you know, women's night, or whatever it is, right? What have we committed to outside of real estate? Okay. The next thing we put on there is our planning time. Remember that you're going to feel like you got a lot of jobs, right? Like the worker bee, right? You're the buyer's agent, you're the showing agent, you're the listing agent, you're the bookkeeper, you are the admin, you're the marketing person, you're in charge of all the social media, you take all the calls, you make all the calls, you're in data entry. You got a lot of jobs, okay? But also don't forget that you own the place too. So every once in a while, you got to get out of the worker bee outfit and put on the CEO outfit and say, let's look at this from a strategic planning. Like, am I spending my time wisely? Am I focused on the right things? Am I hanging out with the right people? That kind of stuff. Make sense?
Yes.
So like, for example, usually on Sunday for about 30 minutes to an hour, I kind of just look at my business, right? What am I doing well? What am I not doing so well? What did I learn this week? What did I struggle with this week? How did I use my time wisely? How was I bad at using my time, right? Am I ahead of my goals, on goal, or off goal? If I'm off goal, have I earmarked extra time this week to catch back up, right? Do I need to look at my calendar and cancel something because it's not in line with my goals, right? So y'all, does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
Okay, so that's part of the plan too. So now what we do is we have an honest evaluation of, what if Gary Keller followed you around today? Would he be impressed? Or would he be like, what the hell is going on with this person? Right? So what we want you to do is be strategic with your time, so you can be all in when you've committed to working, and all out when it's not time to work. Does that make sense? Okay, beautiful. So one of the other things that you're going to hear a lot from me is boundaries, right? What I don't want you to do is work all day, all night, and never take any time off, never rest, never go out of town, right? This is about funding the perfect life. So the more strategic and intentional and purposeful you are when you're working, the more fun you can have when you choose not to work. Make sense? We started to use this document a little bit in productivity coaching. This is, I know you can't read it, I'm just showing you that I'm holding it really. It's a document called the fourth quarter GPS. Okay, GPS is the tool that this thing that I showed you a minute ago, the one goal, or one goal, 3 priority, and 5 strategies. So this is a slightly adjusted version of it, which is basically another version of the business plan. Okay, and on the top it says, I am committed to closing X number of units, in units, houses, same thing, in 2021, so that blank, right? So that I can become debt free, so that I can buy an investment property, so that I can send my kid to school, so that I can, renovate the bathroom, so that my wife and I can go on a cruise, whatever it is, right? Whatever you're trying to do with the money you earn. Okay, no judgments. Okay, well, in order to pull that off, we got to go back to the foundations, because part of my role is really to help you understand when you're wasting time, right? There is so much stuff to do, and a lot of it is not going to move the needle for you, right? Fiddling around with a website all day long that no one knows exists is not going to help you. Okay, what's going to help you is having conversations with human beings and sharing with them how you can impact their world, right? So we don't want to get so caught up in making sure everything is perfect and you become an expert at a technology system for a company that you can no longer afford to be a part of. I know that's like stabbing you in the front. Does that make sense? Okay. So for example, we have a few things on here: pipeline creation and appointment holding, right? Do we have a visual of all the people that we're intending to help in the months ahead? And are we paying attention to how frequently we're actually sitting down and making presentations with people? Okay. Skill and presentation development. When LeBron James comes to his basketball game that starts at 8 o'clock at night, you think he's showing up at 10 till 8? No, he's probably showing up at 6 in the morning so he can work out, get massage, go to the, ice chamber, shoot some baskets, shoot some more baskets, work on his drills, work on the basics, dribbling, all that stuff, right? So when do we practice? We don't want to practice on the people that we worked hard to earn. We want to practice before it's showtime, right? So are you practicing your scripts and your dialogues? Are you practicing your presentations? Do you have an accountability partner? Do you have a role play partner, right? And then a commitment to integrate tech into your business and database growth. So what are you doing each day to improve your database and to improve how you use technology? Okay. And then of course, your success outside of the business. So again, these are things that you want to make sure, do I have a listing presentation? Do I have a buyer presentation? Do I have a pre-listing presentation? Could I verbally explain to somebody what is my marketing strategy, or how do I use digital marketing, farming, and these kind of things, right? Why would a seller hire you when they can hire another agent, right? What's special about you, right? So what unique fact or unique thing do you bring to the table that they might not get if they were to hire some other agent? Make sense? So if you haven't already begun to think that through, now would be a great time to do so, to say, hey, why would somebody hire me, right? Maybe they want to hire me because I have a unique blend of experience, right? Retail, investment, financial advising, and I've done flips or something like that, right? Honestly, a lot of it just comes straight from the heart. Look, my mission here is to help you have an A plus, 10 plus experience. What would that look like to you, right? Because if you guys were my clients, if I were to ask you, Mary, what do you need to happen for this to be an amazing experience for you? I might get a different answer, and likely would get a different answer than if I asked Mike. So most of it is not like throwing up all of your stuff, right? All of your resume and experience and all that. It's simply asking them what is important to them, and then having an intelligent response. Make sense? And be able to professionally guide the conversation where you need it to go. So overall, I think I mentioned this to you guys, but I'll read it to you guys one more time. Is our mission of the productivity coaching group is quite simple, actually. It's to create a community of learning-based and purpose-driven leaders focused together on accelerating the trajectory of our businesses and the quality of our lives. Using the powerful leverage of Keller Williams models, systems, and technology, we intend to create abundant lives for ourselves and for those we support, right? So with that in mind, we're trying to create a community. We got about 45 people in the program now that are all geared towards a common mission, which is I want to grow my business and I want to grow the quality of life. And in turn, I'll probably make some cash, right? And in turn, I'll make an impact on my local community. I'll help buyers buy, I'll help sellers sell, I'll answer a bunch of questions. I'll forge a lot of awesome relationships, and then everyone will come out of here win-win. Okay. That's basically the program. And then the tools that we include, which are things like, Cole Resource Realty and Vulcan 7 and morning huddles and technology and top producer interviews and all of that, that's to kind of supplement a lot of the material that you're already getting from Keller Williams, and to help you really get clarity on, where are the priorities. Like you literally could go to class all day long and never speak to a buyer and seller and appear to be very busy, right? Like I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I hope I didn't sound too raw, but they said, should I go to this class today? And I said, I gotta tell you, I think the class is very important. And I think there's a great likelihood you'll learn something you don't know. However, it's being recorded and you can watch that late at night in your pajamas. If you have won today, right? If you've talked to all the people you're supposed to talk to, if you booked your appointment, if you know what you have to do on a daily basis and you've done it, then yeah, you should go to the class. If you're just looking for a way to not do what you know you need to do, and you're going to use this class as an excuse to not do it, no, I don't think you've earned the right to go to this class. And what you really need to do is just go do the things you know you need to do. Right?
Right.
And so sometimes the role of a coach is not to appease everything you think. The role of a coach is to challenge you. It's to encourage you. it's to celebrate with you, and it's to walk basically side by side with you to make sure that that your goals happen, right? We know that the people that introduce more accountability to their world have better results. It's just that simple, right? And this is, I hope this doesn't sound arrogant. It's definitely not. I'm not trying to sound arrogant at all, but I truly believe that 90% of what you could make with me is bigger than 100% of what you can make alone. And I don't want to say alone's not the right word, because you got all the other agents, you got all the leaders, you got all KW, all that, but without accountability, right? I believe that 90% of what we can make together is bigger than 100% of what you can make without that extra structure. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I know we're trying to cram a lot of things into one day, but what I want the takeaway to be here is that we create a custom business plan based on your financial goals, your time goals, and based on the type of interactions you want to have with the public, right? And no matter what your goals are, however big or small they are, there's no judgment. We simply want to show you the play, right? So it's kind of like, I've said this to you guys, I think before, that the broker's job is actually kind of simple. It's, Mary, what is it that you're here for? What are we trying to accomplish, right? Why is that important to you? Okay, so now that we've established that, here's the play. If you do this stuff, there's an incredibly high chance you'll hit your goals. If you don't do this stuff, there's not a very good chance you'll hit your goals. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow, right? And if you come in and you do all the things you're supposed to do, then everyone wins, right? If you find every excuse in the book not to do it, nobody's going to win. Your friends and family are going to end up picking a lousy realtor because you're not the best one, right? And you're not going to make any money. The great part about PC is I'm only paid when you're paid, right? So it's different than most coaching. Most coaching is, hey, this session is going to take an hour. I'm $200 an hour. Write me a check, and when the check cashes, then I'll give you what you need. And if you get results, that's on you, right? That's like hiring a personal trainer, right? Well, if I'm really good at training, but then I go eat cheeseburgers afterwards, and then nothing happens, right? But the coach still gets paid. This is the exact opposite. This is, you come in, you take advantage of all the tools, you get everything you need to support you, whether it be technology, one-on-one coaching. Remember, we get a 15-minute once a week coaching session, just the two of us. And at the very beginning, as we're planning out some of these models, we'll spend a good bit more time privately. And when it works, that's when you pay. Okay. There is a fiscal year cap on the PC fee, which is $10,000. So for example, Mike, you joined today. So from October 12th this year to October 12th next year, the most you would pay is $10,000. So if you make 100 grand, or let's say you make 40 grand, you'll pay 4,000. You make 70 grand, you'll pay 7,000. You make 110, if you make 300, it's 10,000. Okay. Any questions on anything we've gone over today?
You talked about Cole. Do we have access to Cole, or do we have to pay for Cole?
So if you are in productivity coaching, Cole is free.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you are in productivity coaching, Vulcan 7, VULCAN.com. I'm sorry, VULCAN, the number 7.com is also free. That's the resource for expired, for sale by owner, and withdrawn listings.
Okay, I've never seen that one yet. Okay.
You had mentioned at the beginning, one thing I also want to mention is basically everything is recorded. Okay, so just about every session that we've had since the beginning of March, when the program started, has been recorded, and that's hosted on a private YouTube page. Mike, I'll be sending out those links here shortly. Okay. But you would have access to that, so you can go back and watch 7 months of videos, morning sessions, and mock offer sessions, buyer presentations, listing presentations, profit share classes. I mean, the list, mindset stuff, the list goes on and on and on. So you'd have full access to that. Plus you'd have access to a Google Drive, which houses a bunch of documents and checklists and spreadsheets and all kinds of stuff that I've built over time for my own business. We have morning sessions every day from 8:30 to 9. You can hop on those if you'd like. No one's taking roll, right? So you come in when you can, you watch what you can at night. The goal is we just want the resources to be available to you and the community to be there to help you, right? Whether it's me, Kathy Ray, who's one of our agent mentors, is in the program as well. She's the agent that did the buyer presentation today. And then of course you have a couple WhatsApp groups, an announcements WhatsApp group and a help WhatsApp group, so that if you're like, hey, how do I find this document, or hey, what should I put in this blank or whatever, there's a great number of agents that are available to help you. Remember, Mary, I also put in these contracts here. I'll go ahead and paste this one more time, Mike, for you in case you want to grab it. These are some of the most commonly used contracts. Hey, Kathy, I was just talking about you.
My name.
This is Mary. Say hi to Mary.
Hey, Mary.
Hi, Kathy.
So
Nice
That was
Mike
a
to
great
meet you.
presentation this morning. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Nice
Mary
to
is
meet you.
relatively new to the office. She got her license at the beginning of the year. She came over from Berkshire, and she's checking out productivity coaching. And Mike is our newest productivity coaching client as of this afternoon.
And he's a new friend of mine. So, okay. Well, would love to have you in
He's the
PC, Mary.
sharpest dressed person on the call. No offense to either of you guys.
I know, he really is.
So with that said, our goal again is we want you to have sustainable and growing businesses. And that's going to include a lot of training and coaching and time blocking and mindset and patience, right? And, this business has some pretty high highs. It has some pretty low lows. And we want you to make sure that no matter what you're feeling on whatever day it is, that you know that you're supported. This is just an additional layer of support. Oh, I know what I was going to say. We've got mock offers, negotiations, pricing classes, all kinds of stuff on the YouTube channels, and we continue to do that over and over again. And we've also got several videos on explaining all these contracts, right? What should we fill in the blanks? Why would we put this number of days instead of this number of days? Would it be any different if we're working for the buyer or working for the seller? Right, what contracts even constitute an offer, right? Disclosure statements, timing, right? How to explain all this stuff to the buyer, to the seller, how to deal with any objections that they might have. Like we heard Kathy talk about earlier today, presenting the buyer brokerage agreement to the buyer, right? What are the common ways to explain that? What are the common objections that a buyer might have? Like, why would they be reluctant to sign it, right? Explaining it to them in a way that is serious yet not overly committal, right? And ultimately, if you're going to do something more than once, you should be creating a system around it so that you can it can be duplicatable. I didn't really give you any background on me, but I've been in the business for a little over 15 years. Been with KW. Next month will be for 10 years. I have a small team at the office that's run by Pam Sliger, who's in our group, full-time assistant. We've helped buyers and sellers for years. Let's see. I was previously team leader. I was team leader at the office for about 1.5 years. Been productivity coach now since mid-February. Have taken pretty much all the classes. Feel very confident and comfortable teaching and coaching. I have minority ownership in KW Israel, which I was honored to get involved with a couple of years ago. Have a pretty I don't want to use the word obsession, but a very big interest in profit share, and I've had a good amount of success there too. So you'll start to hear some of those those teachings creep into productivity coaching just because it's such a great opportunity. I'm love an opportunity. My heart right now is, teaching agents how to build great businesses, right? This organization has had a huge impact on my world financially, and the way I handle my time, the way I lead, the way I interact with people, the way I run my business and other businesses. And if I can share just a little tiny bit of that stuff with you guys, and give you a better shot at having a great quality of life, then I think it's a win-win all around. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I have a wife and 2 children, a 5-year-old boy, 8-year-old daughter. I live near Emory. Any other questions?
Could you send the contract on over to me, Bill, and I'll get it signed and over to you today? And anything else you can send me would be appreciated.
Yep, I will do just that. Each week I send kind of a summary email, if you will. Right, here's some stuff we did in the past week. Here's some things that we're going to do in the week ahead. I will forward you guys that one from last week, and then I'm in the process today of writing that. And then that'll also include all of our schedules, so you can start to attend the classes and stuff.
Excellent.
And then we have, of course, the WhatsApp groups. So Mary, for example, I can include you on those. You can get the calendar and schedule and start to interact with some of the people on the calls. And then you'll also see the classes and events that we have coming up. So for example, we have a class called Get a Client Today on Wednesday from 1 to 2. We have our launch mastermind Thursday. We have a growth mastermind Wednesday morning. We've got stuff going on all the time. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, Mike?
Yeah, I got a question. Just I need to know if you have a questionnaire for the first meeting with the buyer or seller. Do you have something like that?
You saying a presentation?
Yeah, a questionnaire or presentation. If for the first time meeting buyer and the seller, because I need it. I don't know if you have it. It's gonna be nice to give.
Yeah, so there's a couple different resources for that. One is today I'll send you the link for the Google Drive. The Google Drive is stocked full of stuff like that. Buyer intake sheets, seller intake sheets, seller pre-qualification questions, buyer pre-qualification questions. There's also a number of resources on KW Command. If you go into Command, the design section of Command, so the design section of Command has a buyer presentation and a seller listing presentation that is already kind of created and it's nice and modern looking. It's editable, so you can put in your own, name and information and that kind of thing. That also has a bunch of questions like, what's most important to you about the process? Why is that most important to you? What happens when you get it? It has all of those kind of things. The intake sheets, the buyer and seller intake sheets, are basically the pre-qualification questions for the buyer, right? Are you interviewing other agents? When do you have to buy a home by? What's important to you about the home? Why is that important to you? When you get a home with a big backyard, what is that going to do for your family? Have you been pre-approved? Are you in a lease? Do you have to sell before you buy? All those kind of questions.
Okay, just send it to me. I will be happy.
Okay, perfect. Let me make a note of that as well. Questions. All right, perfect. All right, you guys, I really appreciate your time today. Mary, looking forward to making it official. Mike, welcome aboard. And again, I'm here to walk you guys through this really cool experience. And I'm excited to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill.